This is CBC Here and Now.
Coronavirus has come to Canada, but how concerned should we be that it will show up here? I'll speak with the province's chief medical officer coming up.
It's an unusually busy day at Provincial Court. 1 week of matters dealt with in one day. I'll bring you that story coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain. Well, it's a sign that routines are slowly getting back on track after that major blizzard. Today, some high schoolers as well as college and university students, they returned to class for the first time since the storm hit a little over 1 week ago. Here Now's Mark Quinn spoke to some about braving the blizzard and now getting back to the books.
It was pretty wild.
Coming here to Munn from Colorado, this student has seen plenty of snow before, but nothing like the raging blizzard we just emerged from.
They said we were going to get a lot of snow, but I didn't really anticipate school being closed for 8 days or like all of the city being closed for 8 days. So yeah, it was wild, but it was fun.
Munn has decided to extend the school year for a week to make up for lost time. That's okay with this Munn student. He's also fine with the decision to reopen today. Although coming from Bangladesh, he has questions about the safety of walking on snowy city streets.
I'm a little disappointed with the pavements though, because it's very difficult to walk over there, and given the slipperiness of the roads, it's very likely for the cars to skid. So that's a bit of a concern.
One K-12 private school in the city, St. Bon's, chose to remain closed today. But all other high schools in the district, like this one, reopened. Some busy students didn't mind the extended break.
Yeah, that was the worst thing in the world. It was a good opportunity for me personally, and I guess for other high school students, because a lot of us work part-time jobs around the city. So we got a Christmas break, but it wasn't really long. So this was 10 days just off. So there's a big chance for everyone to get some things crossed off their list. So.
There was higher than normal traffic at Holy Heart as parents were asked to drive students in rather than let them walk. Here, some students agreed that reopening was the right thing to do.
We did need to get back in school, or they would have to prolong the semester next semester. But I think a lot of sidewalks still aren't done, especially in Georgetown, right behind the school. I think it's really dangerous, and there's still so much ice on sidewalks, so it's hard for people to walk. So I think it's a hard decision, but I think it needed to happen.
This afternoon, the Eastern School District announced all of its schools, including primary schools and kindergartens, will reopen tomorrow. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, not just the bus drivers, all drivers in St. John's had to switch gears today from snow-covered roads to wet ones. Traffic was halted for a short time on Pitts Memorial Drive while crews worked to clear out a washout on the highway. A day of rain on top of all that snow left pools of standing water in many trouble spots. The city says its own crews worked through the weekend to clear snow from storm drains and catch basins, and staff are on standby tonight in case more washouts develop.
Good news is that all that rain that fell today has pushed offshore. Here's some of the numbers. Port aux Basques was the most. 34.6 millimeters of rain fell. As you head towards the Avalon, significantly less. Only 5 millimeters fell at the airport, and just outside CBC we saw 4 millimeters of rain. Now, I said that area of low pressure has moved offshore, but as we head through the night tonight, another area of low pressure is developing behind it, and we've got some colder air with that as well. That's going to head towards the island as we head through the day tomorrow. We're going to see some snow with that, and I'll have all those details coming up.
The basketball world is mourning the loss of one of its greatest players, Kobe Bryant. We're going to get reaction from local basketball player Carl English and some members of the St. John's Edge. That story coming up.
The body of Joshua Wall was found over the weekend, 8 days after the man went missing. The 26-year-old vanished during the massive blizzard. He had left his family home on foot to see a friend, but his family said that he was prone to panic attacks and was not familiar with the wilderness in the area. For 5 days, there was an official search party scouring the area near Conception Bay. Then family, friends, and volunteers took over. His body was discovered in an area off Roach's Line. Canada Post says that mail delivery resumed in the St. John's area today. The company says the mail processing plant in the city started partial operations on Friday. Items will be processed as quickly as possible, the company says, with government checks, parcels and packets being the initial priority. Canada Post says it will be assessing mail delivery every day and will make any needed adjustments. The Crown Corporation also apologizes for any delays while working to deliver the backlog and resume normal services. Well, from Canada Post now to the courts, where hundreds of people arrived in St. John's today only to have their cases postponed. The CBC's Ariana Kelland was there.
This is a very unusual sight here at Provincial Court. There are more than 400 people expected to come through the doors here today. Normally, there are dozens of matters heard here on a daily basis. Now there's extra staff dealing with an onslaught of people who could not be dealt with during the storm week. From first sight, you knew something was different. Check-in spots with 2 staff members each, telling people where to go and when.
This is just one of those type of days. Yeah.
A line of people charged with different crimes. Courtrooms normally used for one thing were now changed to another, getting as many people through as they could, going by alphabetical order.
I was just told to get down there early and make sure to commute with friends and get dropped off because there's not going to be no parking. That's all I know.
No trials went ahead, just an assembly line with a fresh court date at the end.
I've been here since 8:40 myself and coming in and out, and it's just not slowing down.
Across the street, another delay in a big case. Philip Butler's second-degree murder trial was supposed to begin today. He's accused of killing his brother in Conception Bay South. Hundreds of potential jurors showed up to see if they'd get picked, but lawyers for both sides weren't ready on account of the weather. These potential jurors don't get off easy, though. The same group are expected to come back next week. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
To the West Coast now, where a Corner Brook mom says the system failed her daughter, Samantha Piercy. And now she's hoping a lawsuit will bring more transparency to the judicial system. Troy Turner brings us this update.
The urn of her daughter's ashes overlooks Lisa Piercy's living room. Next to it, a collection of belongings that hold special significance. Pictures adorn every wall and bookshelf. Lisa Piercy is determined to keep her daughter's memory alive.
She was the first one there to offer help to somebody. And you're treating her like she's nothing. We're nothing. We don't deserve to know answers on how she died. And it's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels.
Samantha Piercy died in a prison cell in Clarenville in May 2018. She was found hanging from a vent in the ceiling. She was 28, a mother of 2. Piercy wants accountability for her daughter's death.
I keep asking her, baby, why did you have to die so changes can come? And I feel to a certain extent that's her compassionate side of wanting to help people. She wasn't there very long, but they're long enough to know how they're all treated.
What's proving hardest are the questions from Samantha's children, now 2 and 11.
That little girl has often said time and time again, why didn't they look after Mommy? And Nanny, I don't think they're sorry that they didn't look after Mommy, because why aren't they telling me they're sorry? Why won't they speak to me? She doesn't understand why they won't speak to her, why they won't tell her they're sorry that her mom is gone.
The lawsuit won't bring her daughter back. Piercy knows this, but she is vowing to fight for Samantha's memory and to keep something like this from happening again.
It's wrong. It is so wrong. I mean, she wasn't just an inmate. She was my baby. She had 2 babies of her own. And she was so compassionate.
The family of Samantha Piercy is suing the Department of Justice, the Superintendent of Prisons, as well as a prison psychiatrist. It lists damages at $1.5 million. Since 2017, 3 men and 2 women have died while in prison in this province. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
A family home in the St. John's neighborhood of Shea Heights was the target of what looks like a firebombing. Fire officials say it appears that somebody bashed in the front entrance and then threw a container of fuel inside. There's charring throughout the interior of the house and smoke damage on the main floor. 4 adults were inside at the time. All of them made it out safely, but one man was taken to hospital with minor burns. Police are now looking for witnesses or anybody in the area who might have video surveillance.
Kobe is a name that everyone heard of.
Kobe meant a lot.
It's sad to see one of a real basketball legend pass like that.
The world is grieving an NBA legend and celebrating the sometimes complicated legacy of a basketball giant. One of the greatest ever to play the game, Kobe Bryant, was killed yesterday in a helicopter crash that also took the life of his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, as well as the lives of 7 other people. Bryant was just 41 years of age. He spent his entire career with the LA Lakers, 20 historic years, and as a star, he shone off the court as well. We'll check out some video now of the LA Lakers coming home yesterday from a game in Philadelphia, Kobe Bryant's hometown, by the way. They had just heard the news about the fatal helicopter crash. In the gray there, LeBron James, another NBA great. James had just beaten Bryant's record for career points at that game in Philly. They never played for the Lakers at the same time, but they twice won Olympic gold together, and they share the spotlight for being among the best players in NBA history.
Terrible day for the NBA. He was God. He was the GOAT.
He's a legend to me, and I looked up to him so much, and to have this happen, it hurts my heart, man, because he was a god to me.
He means so much, not just to the Lakers organization, but to the entire community of Los Angeles as a whole.
Such a legend, and he's such an impact in the community, and just to see him pass like that, it's an unfortunate tragedy, and I can't believe that it's really happening.
Anybody you'd see on the street, you'd be like, oh, you see them with a Kobe jersey, you're like, Kobe, and you get to talk to people. He's LA pretty much.
Fans there gathering outside of the Staples Center where the Lakers play. It's known to many as the house that Kobe built after Bryant brought the team to a total of 5 NBA championship victories. Well, here at home, another basketball star is also upset. Carl English, the former European League and St. John's Edge player, competed against Bryant over the years, and today, while holding a practice with a team from Paradise Elementary, English talked about Bryant's death. Here now's Jeremy Eaton was at the practice, and he joins us live now from Mile 1 Stadium. Jeremy.
So yeah, Carl English and I have talked about this before. He's written about it in his book, but he went head-to-head with Kobe Bryant once in a memorable game in 2008, and that was back when he was playing for Team Canada. But I stopped by the practice to get Carl's reaction and to share some memories of Kobe Bryant earlier today.
Disbelief would probably be the first thing, hoping that it was fake news. You know, I get a couple of text messages, I pull off the highway, check some media things, and nothing's fully confirmed, but they had a good indication, and you're just speechless. You go into chills, shock. I mean, when you're traveling with your daughter to a basketball game and other families and something like this happens, I think it takes the whole world by storm. And then the magnitude of the person we're talking about. I mean, the man's a legend.
They're Kobe undefeateds, and they're a PE of Devin Booker.
And what can you describe what they look like? What's on the back of them?
It's like the number 8 and 24 to represent Kobe's numbers.
First time I met him was University of Hawaii. They used to come out, the Lakers come out and do training camp, and I got to train with him a little bit there and just pick his brain a little bit. Then we had 2007, I want to say we played him first time in 2008 with Canada basketball. I, probably like you, was a huge Michael Jordan fan, but then Kobe was my era, right? So I wore 8 with Team Canada because of Kobe, right? So 23 for Jordan and 8 for Kobe. But that game was amazing. I was starstruck at first because of who we were playing, a little bit fear of failure. And then obviously anybody that's read or heard of Chasing a Dream, I talk about the choo-choo train in there. So when he's guarding me, you know, he's got my right arm there and he's holding me and he's in my ear like ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. And as I ran faster, he's going ch-ch-ch-ch. And, you know, I'm smacking him away, like, you know, talking, and didn't break his focus, didn't break his concentration. The second year, I was a lot more calm. I was a lot more ready. I think I came with a little bit more swagger. I went at him from the first time.
Michael Wren was 9 of 9 for the entire Tournament of the Americas from the free throw line, and he misses one.
During that game, there's a play on the left side of the floor. I cross him over, I bring him back, and the crowd makes crazy noise. So I crossed him 2 times on the same play, but like something snapped. And next time he ripped me at half court. The next time I felt I was going to block it, but I was right there, and he like hung in the air till like he was almost an inch off the floor and scored it. Then we trapped him at half court. He stepped through it and hit a bank shot. And he's like, you got him, woke up Mamba, right? So I'm just like, oh shit. But anyway, it was all part of it. It was an amazing experience. And just to be blessed to be on the same court with these guys, and especially him, and it's a devastating loss to the world of basketball, but to sports, and then only imagine what his family's going through.
So yeah, Carl English wanted to express his condolences to the family of Kobe Bryant, who also lost his daughter, along with a number of others in that crash. Now, while many of these players here on the court behind us never went head-to-head against Kobe Bryant, they were impacted by his death. Now, earlier today, I spoke with some of the Edge players, and we're going to hear about their reaction to the news coming up later on in the show. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton at Mile 1 Center in St. John's.
Everyone's sort of, rallying around each other to promote each other and get people to get out there and shop local.
Getting back to normal on the Avalon Peninsula, we'll hear from some business owners and shoppers as they hit the stores after more than a week under a state of emergency.
It's not like in prison, everyone's sitting around talking about how they want to be rehabilitated. It's more a talk of like what crimes they're gonna do when they get out. Unless you want to actually change yourself, it doesn't make a difference.
This weather update is brought to you by the NL 511 app. Know before you go. Check road conditions, highway cameras, and the Provincial Plow Tracker with the NL 511 app.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Got your voice back.
Got my voice back.
Yep.
Feel better now?
You feel much better?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%?
Yeah, 100. Wow, yes.
Excellent. Well, just before we get to the weather, which is, of course, what we missed with you, what Karen did for you,
Yeah.
an update for you now from Parks Canada. This is about as close as we can get to Signal Hill because of all of that snow and ice that's there, and the same goes for Cape Spear. Parks Canada says there's still no public access to the two historic sites, so it's a risk to public safety now caused by that snow and ice.
Yeah, so both sites will remain closed to both pedestrians and drivers for now, and people are being asked to respect all signs and barriers that say keep away.
Because sometimes people don't see the signs, and we are expecting an update tomorrow on whether and when those sites will reopen. Pretty shots, though.
It's gorgeous.
It still looks nice.
It is. It's beautiful out there. Although the snow is starting to get more brown.
Yeah, it's not quite as snow whitey, not like sort of like your outfit here.
Yeah, no.
Now, is it just me? I looked up today and thought, it looks to me like I have less snow in my yard.
It
now,
absolutely
there's
does.
so much, but is that just in my head?
Nope,
or?
it's on your head. The snowpack actually has taken a hit. We
Okay.
have seen some melting through the day. If we take a look at some of those numbers, we're down to about 100 centimeters as of today at the airport. We peaked at 125 centimeters this time last week. And then by yesterday, we were already down to 115 centimeters. So that rain today and all that melting, thanks to the sunshine, down to 100 centimeters of snow. And again, those temperatures this morning, it was chilly though, especially up through Labrador, minus 23 in Lab City. And then we've got those warmer temperatures as you head towards the island this morning, and then even more so today, this afternoon. Many areas seeing temperatures well above 0, 4 degrees for St. John, same for Bonavista, Corner Brook. Stephenville was the warm spot, along with St. Lawrence, reaching a high near 5 degrees this afternoon. Now that isn't going to last long. That area of low pressure has moved off. We've got another one starting to develop, and that's going to take some colder air with it and head towards the Avalon. Now overnight tonight, we are looking at the snow continuing, especially along the northern peninsula, and then really anywhere along the rest of the west coast, as well as the northeast. We're looking at the risk of some freezing drizzle overnight tonight, and then after midnight, that should actually change over to some flurries as some of that colder air makes its way in. But we are going to see that snow continue to develop by the time the morning rolls around, especially for the northeast and then parts of the south coast as well. There is still a blowing snow advisory in place for the Straits and then the northern peninsula as well, and that's because those winds are going to stay strong overnight, and with that newly fallen snow, we're going to see some blowing snow conditions more than likely continuing overnight tonight. Those temperatures sitting in the minus single digits. Same through down to Corner Brook. We're already starting to see those temperatures dip. And then by the time probably the evening hours roll around for the Avalon, we'll start to see those temperatures head below 0. So if you do have some time to clear some of that slush that's happening in your driveway and on the sidewalks, that's a good idea because that will freeze overnight tonight. Minus 22 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay under clear skies for most of the Big Land. Cartwright looking at that chance of a few flurries, but overall not a whole lot happening for you. So tomorrow, that colder air continues to sink a little bit further south. We're going to see some snow develop across parts of central, eventually eastern Newfoundland, and then eventually the Avalon into the evening and overnight hours. And with this, we could pick up a couple centimeters of snow for the Avalon. Mainly, this will be through to tomorrow morning, so this is an additional snowfall from what you're seeing already. Somewhere between 5 to 10, certainly for Bonavista North through to Bonavista. The Avalon more than likely only looking at about 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. So generally, temperatures will be hovering near or just above 0 or below 0 rather tomorrow. Winds out of the west 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. That potential for snow again through central, maybe some periods of freezing drizzle, but overall just looking at some flurries. Minus 3 for Corner Brook, so similar temperatures right across the board. Sunshine though will continue up through the Big Land. We're looking looking at -12 for Cartwright, -14 for Happy Valley Goose Bay, and then sitting around -16 for Lab City. The best chance of seeing some flurries will be around Makkovik and Nain through the day. So that's a look at your forecast. We'll look ahead when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, when the state of emergency in St. John's was finally lifted on Saturday morning, businesses were allowed to open again. Here Now's Katie Breen visited some stores to chat with some employees as well as some customers.
Our parking lot is definitely busy. Some people have been coming in and saying, wow, I've never been able to not find a spot out front. So it's nice to see. I know people were definitely housebound and they wanted to get out.
Did you find you were getting cabin fever at all?
Absolutely. I'm somebody that goes out walking every day. Not to be able to get out, it was really hard.
The whole city was in lockdown, and we missed a couple of farmers markets, which this time of year is pretty hard on a small business. But gave me time to make some new sauces and clean out the deep freeze and come up with some new ideas.
Anyone who's a business owner, local shops included, they've gone now over a week. So I think it's really important to get to as many local shops as you can.
People are sort of rallying up around local. There's been a lot of social media presence for local businesses this week, which is awesome. Everyone's sort of, rallying around each other to promote each other and get people to get out there and shop local.
So much community support online and our social media pages. People have been so amazing, and when I came in to open this morning, people were outside waiting to get in, which was so great to see. Thank you to each and every one that has supported all the small local businesses throughout the city. We appreciate each and every purchase, even if it's just a couple dollars.
Bye. Take care of yourself.
There's a whole range of coronaviruses. So some of them cause the common cold, and some of them have caused more severe diseases, like we see with this one.
Well, until last week, chances are you'd never heard of the coronavirus, but now the deadly virus has the world taking notice. Ahead, what you need to know about it. Today marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. 200 Holocaust survivors, including 13 Canadians, made the trip back for a ceremony to remember the 1.1 million people who were murdered there. The vast majority were Jews killed in the camp's gas chambers or who died from starvation, cold, and disease. The survivors are among the last living who experienced the atrocities firsthand, who were caged in barracks and whose friends and family were murdered. Many didn't want to go back at all to revisit the horrors of Auschwitz, but say they're concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism right across the globe.
Now, Dr. Mengele, when he inspected us, we would have to stand in rows naked and we would be driven to death. But I said I wouldn't go, and I hid under a bed, under the cover, and somehow I saved myself in this way.
Having just listened to that lady's speech, that really upset me. It upset me, despite the fact that I was also in Auschwitz as an 8-year-old girl. I'm blind. I can't look at notes. So what I'm saying comes from the heart, and she will continue now with my speech. She will read it, but I have written it. I have written it, yes.
In Auschwitz, I witnessed mass murder. I, as an 8-year-old girl, overheard adult conversation like, "They must have run out of gas, and they are burning people alive."
75 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, obviously a very somber day, a very meaningful day for many people, including my next guest. Jonathan Richler is part of the Jewish community. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
What's your sense of the significance of a day like this, 75 years?
A lot of sense. A lot of things to continuously unpack. I've been to Poland. I've been to several death camps and extermination camps and labor camps, and it never leaves me. Anyone who has been to that part of the world, or to any part of the world that has commemorated or recognized mass extermination from former governments, you never forget these moments, and there are multiple flashbacks in your days.
Interesting the way you describe it, Jonathan, because I was there 20 years ago following Jean Chrétien at the time, and it was an agonizing visit because he was with somebody who was just so emotional, and I remember seeing the glasses and the eyeglasses and the shoes and the luggage, and something, it hits you so hard. How would you describe the feeling you had when you were first there?
The smell. I've been in 2 gas chambers. One that was the most powerful was Majdanek, insofar as that they had 2 separate chambers. One was experimental for different types of gases. The other was Zyklon B, which is the gas that was used to murder millions. The smell itself in the crematorium, which still exists, the scratches in the concrete, which could only be made by fingernails, will never leave me. Now as an older man, when I think about the size of the ovens, which are still in existence, some of them, of course, were blown up to cover their tracks. They were so small, and that could only be because the victims were starved for months, if not years, before they finally met their end. They did not have to be too large.
I often hear the phrase, never again, right? And you roll your eyes. But why?
Every time. I think it's hollow. I think it's a facade. Never again. The reason, the impetus for the creation of the United Nations after the liberation of all the camps. Today, the 75th anniversary of the liberation by the Soviet Red Army of Auschwitz. That in itself is a story, but never again was supposed to mean that we would never see a systematic murder of
a people.
And I can count a half dozen what we would today call, in a sterilized term, ethnic cleansing.
The Balkans?
The Balkans. Let's talk about Rwanda, Sudan, the always disputed Armenian genocide, how long it's taken our own country to deal with the First Nations peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Never again. Put it this way, there's two things that happen every year that most world leaders and countries love to go to. And these are in very fancy cities. You talk about either climate change or you talk about racism. And everyone signs principled declarations as to make sure that these things never happen. And a continued commitment to making sure that we will educate our populations and stand up for human rights. Let's throw poverty in there as the third junket. If we're going to go with evidence-based policymaking and decision processes, it's false. We're still here.
It's a very somber message on this day.
I'm rotted.
I can tell.
But it's moments like this where we have to think about where we go from this point. And yeah, let's take up that torch for the 75th time. Let's take up that torch for the moment for our next generations. Let's try and figure out how we get our future world leaders to absorb information, not take facts and be overwhelmed by the facts themselves, but take the context. We are living in a moment where the living history of the survivors of the genocide of the Holocaust are about to say goodbye. But we have so many more unfortunate survivors. Well, it's fortunate that they are survivors, don't get me wrong, but it's unfortunate that they have to call themselves survivors of so many other genocides. Let's figure it out. Let's talk to these folks. Let's look in the mirror and ask ourselves why.
Right. Well, Jonathan, very serious conversation, but I do appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Thanks.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Canada's first case of the coronavirus has now been officially confirmed. And earlier today, Ontario health officials said the patient's wife is also believed to have contracted the illness. Both of them recently returned from the Chinese city of Wuhan. Meanwhile, the province is also investigating 19 other people for possible infection from the same strain of virus. Christine Birak has the details.
Two cases are, as you know, a married couple who arrived at Pearson International Airport on January 22nd.
One confirmed case of novel coronavirus, one presumptive case. The couple in their mid-50s had traveled to Wuhan, China, the center of this outbreak. Officials say they were wearing face masks on their 16-hour flight home. After landing at Pearson Airport, they were questioned by a border agent, but didn't appear seriously ill. They were handed an information sheet and went home. The husband became ill the next day, called 911, and warned paramedics he may have the virus. He's now in stable condition and recovering in hospital. His wife no longer has symptoms, but remains in isolation at the couple's home.
The second case also reminds us that not all people who contract Wuhan novel coronavirus experience severe symptoms. As of today, she has not been in need of the same acute hospital care.
Health officials are confident that neither patient infected healthcare workers, but they're still tracking down passengers who sat 3 rows ahead of them and 3 rows behind them on the plane.
We have been able to make contact with a few. We do know that there is a mobile population here, and we may very well need to go to a more public call.
Some passengers on the South China flight tell CBC that they're already self-isolating.
Should they develop signs and symptoms, we are asking them to contact their local public health unit.
Doctors insist they do contact tracing around diseases on a daily basis, emphasizing that anyone who is sick with any virus, including the flu, should stay home to prevent the spread, wash hands, and cover up when coughing and sneezing. Public Health Ontario says 19 other people are being investigated for possible novel coronavirus. All of them have a travel history going back to Wuhan or Hubei province. The testing takes about 24 hours to confirm a positive or negative case. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
So how concerned should we be that the coronavirus might show up in Newfoundland and Labrador? Joining me now to talk more about that is the province's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald. So tell us, how worried should people be?
Well, the overall risk for Canada and for Newfoundland and Labrador is low from a public health point of view. It isn't unexpected that we would see some cases here in Canada, but overall the risk is low.
What should people know about coronavirus?
So coronavirus itself, there's a whole range of coronaviruses. So some of them cause the common cold, and some of them have caused more severe diseases, like we see with this one. So what we have to remember, there's no replacement for washing your hands well and practicing good hand hygiene, and just being careful in crowds, clean, cover, contain, and just to make sure, especially around this time of year, that you're trying to keep yourself as safe as possible.
There are lots of flus that go around every year. People get their flu shot. What makes the coronavirus in particular so special?
So I think what makes this virus so special is that it's new. We've never seen it before. And so that, to us, that says it's probably come from the animal world, and it's somehow found a way to be able to survive in humans and cause disease in humans. And so that's what makes this one so interesting. It's just that we haven't seen it before.
So what symptoms should people look out for, and at what point should you go get yourself checked out?
So the first thing we have to remember with this virus is that we're not concerned for people who've had no travel history, right? Unless they've been in contact with someone who may have traveled to the affected areas. So if indeed you are one of those people who have had contact or have traveled to those affected areas, then you'd be looking for signs of fever, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, cough, worsening cough, those sorts of things. And if you were to get unwell and felt you needed medical attention, it's very important that before you go to any facility that you call ahead and just to let them know that you've had an exposure, a potential exposure to this coronavirus, so that the facility can prepare to make sure they have those protective measures in place. And if you call 911, that you let the dispatch officer know the same. If we look at it in terms of the number of people who we've discovered who've gotten sick and the number of people who have died, it's certainly nowhere in comparison to some of the more deadly viruses that we've seen in recent years. But so a lot of the people who are affected are older, they have other medical problems, so that predisposes them, just like influenza would do. So, we want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. And in that respect, it's not much different than any other virus that you can get that can affect the lungs.
What is the province doing to prepare for a possible outbreak?
So we've been in fairly consistent communications with our federal counterparts as well as our regional counterparts, and we are looking at our policies and procedures, and we're assessing our supplies and making sure that we're ready to receive any cases that may come our way.
So I guess this will be something that you'll be keeping a close eye on.
Absolutely, yeah. We will be in consistent contact, regular contact with our federal partners, and they are in consistent contact with the international partners, and we'll be also in contact with the regions on a regular basis as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're going to head to mile 1 now. The St. John's Edge will pay tribute to Los Angeles Laker legend Kobe Bryant at tonight's game. It's against Halifax. A moment of silence will be held to honor one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Here now's Jeremy Eaton met up with some of the players late this afternoon. Jeremy, how are the players feeling and coping with this?
Well, the players found out near the end of the game yesterday afternoon with about a minute left, and they said it had a big impact on them. Now, you got to realize that St. John's, the Mile 1 Center here in St. John's, is about 7,000 kilometers away from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, aka the house that Kobe built, and that's where fans there are honoring the basketball great. But here, his loss has still had an impact on members of the St. John's Edge. Earlier today, I spoke with the head coach and 2 of their players.
The saddest part to me was what he's been doing post-basketball, and he was kind of thriving in his role post-retirement. Loved being a dad to his 4 girls, and Gigi was someone who he wanted to follow in his footsteps and carry that Bryant name in basketball, and she wanted to play in the WNBA and play Division I basketball, and that was the toughest thing for me last night, was watching the videos and the tribute videos, and it's just devastating. There's not a lot of words to describe it. It was just devastating.
Kobe Bryant was our Michael Jordan of our generation. We grew up watching him. We watched him grow up before our eyes, honestly, as a basketball player, as a man, as a father. And for me personally, him having that Mamba mindset, being a killer, playing hard, attacking every day, that's helped me a lot as a player, because I've tried to use the same mentality. I've read most of his books. I mean, it's not enough adjectives to describe how much he's impacted my life.
What is the Mamba mentality for people who don't know?
It's basically going out and being a killer, man. Taking advantage, and whoever you're playing against, showing no mercy. Even if it's your mom or anybody, just going out there and attacking.
And he's the reason why I have the work ethic I have. He's the reason why I approach the game how I approach the game. His Mamba mentality, man. I mean, it's hard to, copy the whole blueprint, but just him going hard every day, man, and him doing what he does, man, it's made a big impact on the game.
Will this sort of have any impact on how you approach tonight's game against Halifax Junior?
Oh, for sure. I'm going to go 1,000% harder, man. I'm going to pay my respects to Kobe and, go as hard as he goes. I go hard every game, but, man, tonight's going to be emotional, man.
Before the anthem tonight, we're going to lower the lights and do a 24-second moment of silence and have a picture of Kobe and Gigi on the Jumbotron, and I'm going to leave it up to the players if they want to dribble out the clock or take an 8-second violation like you saw last night in the NBA. A lot of teams do. I think it's just out of respect, and he impacted the game in so many ways, both on and off the court, and he's going to be greatly missed.
So it's not just the players and the head coach, also some of the fans. Quickly, can you give us your name?
My name is Seth.
Seth, why did you want to make this sign, and what does it say?
It says, do it for Kobe. The reason why I wanted to make this sign is because he had such a big impact on growing the game, and of course his daughter had a big impact on it as well. We just had to honor him in some way.
Well, good on you, boys. Anyway, so as you can see, it's not just the players, it's the fans. There's a number of number 24 Laker jerseys being worn here tonight. And in about 15 minutes when the game gets underway, they're going to run out the 24-second clock and pay tribute to the late Kobe Bryant. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton at Mile 1 Center in St. John's.
The weather update is brought to you by Beltone, your partner in better hearing.
Okay, well, I guess we should look a little farther down midweek. See what's in store as far as the weather goes. All that melting, good slush advice, by the way.
Yes, well, that happened last time, remember?
Slush, yeah.
Started to get slush and then everything turned into a block of ice. Now, the temperatures aren't going to drop as much as that as they did last time, but they are going to stay below zero for the next little bit. So we shouldn't really see too much impact in that snowpack over the next little bit. But let's take a look at the future tracker. It is a little bit unsettled really through the beginning or the middle of the week, rather. We're still looking at that chance of flurries or light snow for most of the island, and then up through the big land as well. We could see a few centimeters of snow with this next system, but those temperatures really are going to stay pretty chilly up through Lab City, minus 18, and then as we head towards the Avalon, rather the island, we're looking at temperatures in the minus single digits. Should stay below zero for St. John's, Marystown more than likely hovering around the 0 degree mark. And then we do have some sunshine up through Nain, sitting around minus 15 for your Wednesday. Now looking even more ahead into overnight, into Thursday morning, still looking at some unsettled conditions expected, so some light snow possible through the day on Thursday, some clearing up through Labrador, and then unsettled again through the day on Friday. And staying into some of this colder air. It does look like Saturday will actually stay quite nice for the most part. Just some cloud cover at this point with the chance of some flurries and or light snow moving in as we head through the day on Sunday, especially for the south coast. This is the next one that'll move in, and as it heads a little bit further north, it looks like we're looking at another warm up with this one. So here's where we'll be sitting in temperature wise over the next 5 days. Not as much sunshine as we've been seeing. So again, with those temperatures hovering near or just below zero, will likely add to the snow more than take it away. So through Thursday, temperatures hovering between -1, -2, and then we see a dip in those temperatures for both Friday and Saturday, and a little bit of sunshine in the mix as well. Nothing significant as far as accumulation goes, though. For central Newfoundland, we're looking at gray skies right through Thursday. Same thing with a little bit of sun peeking out on Friday. Certainly by Saturday, we'll see that sun, but those temperatures will be dipping overnight back down to those minus teens. And then same thing for western Newfoundland. So essentially by Thursday, we could see a few peaks of sun. Friday looks generally gray and -7, and then by Saturday, that's when we'll see most of that sunshine. -6, overnight low sitting around -14. Now for eastern Labrador, it's going to be quiet, so just some flurries possible on Wednesday. Temperatures not too bad though, into the minus double digits, just barely by Thursday, sitting around -10, but plenty of sunshine in the mix there, with overnight lows sitting between -18 and -19 by the time we get to the end of the weekend. And then for western Labrador, you're looking at nothing but sunshine through the day, or at least through the week. Maybe a few mix of sun in the mix as well, but overall your temperatures will be sitting in the minus teens, overnight lows into the -20s, but then by the time you get to Saturday, you're up to about -19. So that's a look at your forecast. I'll have a weather photo coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. In national news tonight, a second prominent Tory who was recently in town for John Crosby's state funeral has decided to enter the race for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Who's going to fight for auto workers who just saw the last car roll off the line? Who's going to fight for forestry workers who just watched another mill close? Who's going to stand up for those who wear a uniform of service to protect us at home and abroad?
Former Veterans Affairs Minister Aaron O'Toole made it official in that online video that you saw, and released that earlier today. Over the weekend, another former Conservative Cabinet Minister, Peter MacKay, made his bid for the job, and he made that bid official.
Finally, some freedom. Everybody was out and about this weekend. Even this was out. I think you have an idea of maybe where that is?
It's not far, right?
It's not that far, no. But I'll tell you where this is too when we come back.
welcome back. And that was a beautiful picture that you had up just before the break. I'm intrigued.
Juvenile eagle, I think. But that was taken from Conception Bay South, which was the view of Bell Island there.
There we go. Yeah, that part I thought I knew. Yeah, it's not a chicken.
No, it's definitely not a chicken. And I don't see a whitehead, so I'm assuming it's a
Last
juvenile.
time we did this, every bird expert who watches here now
Yep.
roasted us on Twitter.
Well,
So go ahead, roast away.
Because I'm not really sure what it is. But yes, freedom after the storm is what we've captioned this. Lisa Lau sent us.
Lisa Lowe. I think
sorry.
that someone's going to identify the tail feathers, and they're going to tell us, Anthony, Ashley.
Yeah, sorry.
You fools.
I'm definitely
so
not
obviously.
I'm not a bird expert. Great
If
talk,
you know,
though.
help us out, let us know, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Good night.
Bye.